Today, I'm going to show you how to use the engine effectively to get better at chess. But first, let's discuss the engines that are available. And there are a lot. From Shredder to Stockfish, Leela Chess Zero, and Komoda, there are engines out there that will suit your needs. Some are free and some come at a premium. These engines offer players comprehensive tools for analyzing games, studying openings, and improving their understanding of endgames. Whether you prefer the brute force of Stockfish, the innovative neural network approach of Leela Chess Zero, or the human-like play of Komoda, there is going to be an engine tailored to every player's needs. For today's video, to keep it simple, we are going to be using chess.com's analysis tool, which runs off Stockfish. Now, additionally, there are two more basics that we will need to understand before using engines. The first is how deep they go. This is determined by ply. No, not pi, ply. Ply is simply each time a player makes a move, that is one ply. So if white player makes a move, that is one ply. Black player makes a move, that is two plies. The engine will search how deep in a game based off ply, not by moves. So if you see an engine saying it is going to go 10 deep, that is talking about 10 ply or 5 moves. The more ply, the stronger the engine will be, and the game will be analyzed better. The downside here, it will be very intensive on your device. Next, we need to understand the evaluation bar. The evaluation bar starts close to 0, which is an even game. As the game progresses, it may stay even, or it may go plus or negative. The plus means that the game is in white's favor. The negative means that the game is in black's favor. The number associated with plus or minus is a point system. Simply put, if a game is +1, that game is equivalent to white being up a pawn. If the game is -5, then it would be equivalent to black being up a rook. Remember, the engine does not care about material, it cares about the overall game. So if it says white is +3, but material on the board is equal, there is a good chance that there is a tactic available or some sort of positional imbalance. Now that we have that all out of the way and cleared up, let's get on with the game analysis. If you watched my last video on the self-analysis, which you should have, then you would know that there are some questions that I want clarified when using the engine. However, first I'm going to replay the game with the engine on, and I will be doing that by going to chess.com/analysis and pasting in the game. So I will paste it into the load FEN PNG, and I will click add games. Now what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn off I'm going to keep the evaluation on, but I'm going to make sure that lines is turned off, because if you have lines on, then it's going to give you answers as you go through, and we don't really want that yet. First, we want to try to figure it out ourselves. I am also going to switch the board to be for my perspective. Now I'm going to play through the game, and I'm going to be watching the evaluation bar very carefully. I'm going to be watching it for any major changes, and that way if I find any, I can try to figure them out before I go and actually get the engine to run through the program and tell me everything that's wrong. I'm also going to be taking notes. Now I may not be doing this today while explaining on the computer. However, when I do this, I also take notes of what errors come up during the game, and I make sure to credit the computer as the one who figured out those errors happened. This will give me a better way to find out what is going wrong in my games. We start the game. And we just play through and we try to find anything that is a bit interesting. Of course, I've got my questions such as number 5, was D3 good? And the evaluation bar doesn't change much, so it must have been a fine move. And again, I had concerns about playing A6, however, the computer does not seem to mind that so much, so I must have been on the right track there, so that's good as well. The next move, Rook B8, is also going to be one where I can see if I was a little bit passive or if it was a good move. and the engine is still happy with rook b8. So clearly I'm doing something right here, so I don't really need to note anything down. But if I wanted to be really particular, I could write that down in my notes as well. Here we see the engine have a bit of a change and has now gone to -1, which means that black is essentially up 1 pawn. Now, during my analysis of this game off camera, I did find that the reason why it does go down 1 is because there is actually opportunity here to win a pawn. In the game, I played b4. However, if I took the bishop and the queen took the bishop, and now I play pawn takes, there was actually an undefended pawn on b2, which I could take, which would explain why the engine is giving -1 for black in this position. So that's something that I should be noting down in my notes. Here I missed a tactic to win 1 pawn. And we can go through and add that into our game on our analysis file, and we can put in the notes in there as well. I've put in here I missed a tactic to win a pawn, discovered by the engine, and then I've played out the moves that I missed. And as you can see, the engine comes back to 0 after I miss that one opportunity. Try not to play too fast when you're going through here, because if you do go too fast, you may miss the movement of the engine. You want to slow it down, take your time, and find those mistakes. Here we get plus 0.7 for white, so they are slightly getting ahead here. And as you can see, after their move, it goes back to 0-0. So they clearly missed an opportunity here. Now, in the interest of time, we'll find this out when we go through the review on the engine of what they should have done. I feel like it may have been exchanging, but we'll see when we get there. Now, you can see the next couple of moves, I went significantly downhill. Now, in order to keep this video brief, I will not be sitting here trying to solve all these. However, you get the idea. Use the engine to find mistakes as you play and try to figure out what could have gone wrong or what you missed, which you could have done to go in the right direction. Another question that I had was this a good trade? And I feel like this one was a good trade. Now, what I could do here is I could actually trade with the bishop and see if that is okay. Apparently trading with the bishop was fine as well, so they were both good options. However, I think trading with the knight, I preferred that better, and I think the engine doesn't really care on that one. One of the final questions I had was move 52 the falling point for white? Or did they blunder before that? This should be the move where it's the blunder. No, this was not the move. Okay, so the move where they blundered was g6. Now, when I was playing this game, I thought that by him letting my king up here, there was no way out for him. but apparently there is a way out for him. So I am going to take a few minutes to see if I can find how he could have got out of this, because I was convinced that from here the game was over. But apparently, according to the engine, the game still has a bit of life in it. So I'm going to fast forward the video. Hopefully I can find the move for white, which will create a drawing position. Okay, so it didn't take me as long as I expected. However, it looks like any three of these moves would have saved the game for white. The point is they can come up and deliver checks if the king comes up to try and check them. I'm just going to double check that again though. I mean, it's a very complicated endgame, but the engine seems to think that everything's okay here. So there you go. I found out something in this game which I thought I was ahead here at king f5, and it turns out that I actually wasn't, and my prediction of the blunder was one move ahead of when the actual blunder happened. My opponent still had 11 minutes here. They could have used a lot more time to figure this out, but instead they used about half a minute to find the blunder, and yeah, that was a good result. Now there was one more move that I wanted to have a look on here, which was 23, queen to b6, and it turns out that in the game it was actually slightly worse than queen to d8, which I played in the game, keeping the game about plus 0.2 as opposed to plus 0.5 or 6. The final move that I wanted to see during the game, which I skipped through on my notes, was to see if queen a5 was actually good. So in my self-analysis, I looked at queen a5 with the discovered check and the pushing of the pawn and getting it to a2. So let's have a look at the evaluation bar. Still fine. So that was not a bad move. However, we haven't looked at the lines yet to see if it was truly good, but it looks like it was better than what I played in the game, which was b4. So again, I could put in my notes, missed a potential discovered check tactic that I could have used, which also was attacking a pawn. So maybe slow down a little bit and find those little ideas. Now that we've gone through the game and we've found the errors in our ways and we've attempted to solve them, we can now go back and use the favorite feature on chess.com, which is the game review. We get to the game review, go up to review, and it will start reviewing the game for you. Now, the review is going to show you some good blunders, including brilliancies. I had 0, and blunders, I also had 0. With these stats in mind, try to reflect on the game to see if you can identify where the blunders happened. I know for certain that in this game there was a blunder right at the end, and during my analysis I was able to find that blunder. I also saw a second blunder which happened early in the game, and I know through going through the game that blunder happened when he moved the bishop to h6. That was a blunder where I could have won a pawn. Hopefully when you do your self-analysis and then your analysis with the evaluation bar, you'll be able to find these different areas where you had room for improvement and you were able to solve blunders that happened after the game had been played out. With these stats in mind, we can now hit Start Review. Game Review is going to play through the game and it's going to give you helpful information along the way. Here it is showing me my win-loss percentage when playing the English Opening. It says I've won 42 games, lost 33, and drawn 5. So overall, this is a good opening for me, despite me not knowing what was going on. The game review will also go through and stop at any critical moments or blunders, and then it will give you a chance to solve them. Now, what I forgot to mention is I should have this on reviewing as black, and that way it will stop when I make a mistake. However, if you want, you can review as both. It's still a good option to have. It's probably a better option to have, actually. Once you get to a move, they make a blunder, you go past, you can always hit retry. Click retry and the game review will give you another chance to find that winning move. Once you find it, it will tell you if you're correct or not, and then you can go ahead and show moves, and it will actually play through the sequence of moves to show you what happened. Make sure you understand the whole list of moves. Here, he's attacking the rook, and white plays e5. And you might say, well, the rook is undefended. Make sure you have an understanding that if he does take that piece, you will get a fork. Make sure you understand the full sequence. If you don't, stop and review. So we're going to go back to game review and we're going to continue through the game. The game review can give you some helpful tips. This ignores an opportunity to offer an equal trade of pieces. Let's find the equal trade of pieces. So the only offer of an equal trade that I can see here is queen to d8. We can click hint. It's highlighted the queen. So I'm going to go ahead and assume queen to d8. And the engine just felt like it was a good time to offer an equal trade. Now, bear in mind, the downside of using an engine is it won't always be very clear on why it's good. For example, here it doesn't really tell me why it was good to offer a trade. It's just like, here's a chance to offer a trade. We can go through show moves and see what happens. And this is a very big downside of using an engine. It doesn't really tell you any more detail after that, except white is +1, offer a trade. That's not really helpful. That's why it's always good to go through the self-analysis part first. And it's also good to go through discussing with your opponent at the end their thoughts and ideas on the game. Okay, now we're at another mistake. This game was close to equal, but now white has the advantage. White already had the advantage. Let's try to find a better move. The only better move I can think of right here is rook fe1. I'm having trouble seeing anything on here that is good. And I guess the engine just wants you to create an outside pawn. If you want to use an engine, you have to remember that the better you become as a player, the more beneficial the engine will be to you. As you start to understand concepts more and more, the engine will push you towards concepts and they will make more sense. Whereas if you are brand new at the game and you're just relying on the engine alone, it will be showing you concepts that you may not understand fully. So keep that in mind. And here we missed an opportunity to defend a pawn that was under attack. The only move I can see here is rook to c8. I feel like that runs into trouble, but let's have a look. Finally, once you reach the end of the game, you'll be met with a rating estimate, as well as a score for each phase of the game. This is great for letting you know where in the game you need to focus on. As you can see here, I played my end game really well, however, fell short in the opening and the middle game. So clearly I had the right idea for the end game. However, in the next videos, I'll be going through more detail on areas of improvement for the middle game and opening. Okay, Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please let me know in the comments below and hit that like button. I will be continuing this series on how to analyze your games, so if you want to see more of that content, please hit that subscribe button so you will see when the videos come out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.